I'm an old fart, and I have a guilty pleasure. I like knives. I'm not an expert or an official representative of anything or anybody in any way. I just like knives. And for the last year, wow, hard to believe it's been a year, but it has been almost a year. For the last year, you've been dropping in virtually and visiting me and taking a little tour through my collection of small folding pocket knives. It's helped keep me sane during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I hope you've enjoyed it too. So thanks for coming along. Today, we're going to have a look at this knife. This is a Pena X Series Barlow knife. And this is a somewhat rare or unusual knife, and so maybe a little explanation. I've known of Pena knives for a long time. Enrique Pena, he's a Texas-based knife designer, and basically custom knives. He makes small quantities, beautiful handmade knives that are essentially impossible to get. And he has, not long ago, started making what he calls his X series, which are production knives. So his designs, but manufactured in Asia in larger quantities, and it's actually possible to get them. So I found a local distributor, found a drop, jumped, and managed to get this one. They're not permanently in stock, but they're more achievable than the fully customs are. It's a beautiful knife, and it's everything I had hoped for, and I love wanting it, except one small thing, one problem I didn't expect. Now, I'll confess, this is a remake of this video. I had actually prepared an earlier version of it in which that problem was blown up to more seriousness. But since then, I've figured out what I was doing wrong, overcome the problem, and so I'm re-recording this to mention that I had that problem, but downplay its importance. So let's go through it again. So this is a Pena series by Enrique Pena. It is the X series, and the X series are a bunch of knives more or less like this, varying slightly by handle size and blade size. This is the X series Barlow clip point front flipper. So there's a lot of words, and there you can see clip point, clearly front flipper as you saw. A variety of scale options are available. This one is natural canvas micarta. There's also an olive green micarta, and at other times he's offered other materials such as carbon fiber. The mechanism is it's a frame lock knife. It is a front flipper opening. There's the open. Being a front flipper, it's sort of flipped here like you would flip a Zippo lighter, not a side flip. There is also a nail nick, so you can open it with the nail nick. And I generally use the nail nick because I rarely need to open a knife one-handed, and I like the non-threatening nature of the nail nick. And I said it was a frame lock. Actually, technically, it's a bolster lock. There it is opened. You can see the lock here, but since the locking mechanism is underneath a scale, technically that is called bolster lock. So anyway, it runs on, I forgot to look up if it's running on bearings or washers. I am pretty sure it's bearings, just looking in there. I should look that up. Anyway, runs on those, and it is really smooth and pleasant to work with. Let's talk about the size. It's 171 millimeters overall length, which is less than a pocket calculator, about 0.93 pocket calculators, so not a huge knife. Let's compare it to some other knives. My standard comparison, of course, is the Benchmade Mini Griptilian. As you can see, it's almost the same as the Mini Griptilian. It is 1 millimeter less, not something you'd notice. Slightly larger than a Kaiser Feist, which is another front flipper, so arguably better comparison. And slightly smaller than a small Sabenza. So you can see it's kind of nicely in the mid-sized knife range. It is not a heavy knife, 68 grams, so it's quite a bit lighter than the Mini Griptilian's 79 grams, noticeably lighter. It's almost exactly the same as the considerably larger 940. Now this is the 940 carbon fiber, so it's light, of course. It's about the same weight as that. And it is, like pretty much everything in the world, heavier than the stupidly light carbon fiber bughout. So mid-size, mid-weight, and on the edge of lightweight knife. The blade is a clip point. It is 3 inches exactly, according to one source, and 2.91 inches according to another source. And there's no point in getting out my calipers and measuring it, because I'm not actually sure what you measure. Do you measure the straight line distance or somehow the integrated surface of the blade? I don't know. So anyway, it's either 3 inches or slightly under. M390 steel, which is a fantastic steel I like very much. Titanium body, micarta scales. There is a very handsome clip. It is a milled titanium clip, shallow carry, and this is the only clip option. So it's right-hand carry, tip up only. There is no hole to mount it on this side, and no lanyard hole. So this is what you get. So I usually comment on whether a knife is ambidextrous because I have some mutant friends. So for opening, sure, there's a nail nick, so you can open it with the nail nick with your left hand. And you can open a flipper knife with your left hand. I'm not going to try because I will almost certainly cut myself, but you can open it, yes. For carrying, no, right hand only. And for general appearance, no. Clearly a presentation side. And for unlocking, well, I guess lefties can learn to unlock a frame lock with their left hand, but I don't think I could do it. Manufacturer, as I said, designed in Texas, made in China. I don't know if I know who makes it. It is high-end. Reet, one of those, is probably the manufacturer. Anyway, it's a beautiful knife, which I like a lot. So what do I like? Well, I think it's handsome. I like it closed and open. It just has that sort of classic jackknife look. The micarta scales are comfortable looking. They patina over time to become a little more personal. The classic clip point blade. I think it's a handsome looking knife. And the little details, things like the fit between the micarta and the titanium, which is just perfect. There is no lip there, no gap. I think it is a beautiful looking knife. The materials are wonderful. I love 390 steel. And I think this is a great application of micarta. Speaking of premium materials, it does have a hardened steel insert on the lock bar, so you won't see the lock behavior changing over time as the titanium wears. I like that. And here's a neat little touch. The Torex screws that are used both on the pivot screw and to hold the scales in place are big. They're T9 Torex screws, and there's nice touch, and there's two things I like about that. One is that no stripping. A T9 is a good solid lock, not going to face that problem of the tiny little T6 screws and some knives stripping. And the other is they actually look quite nice. The T9 opening, it's big enough that it actually starts to become decorative. It looks like there's a star shape in all of these screws, and so they actually become decorative and nice looking. Another thing I like is just, again, simple, call me shallow, simple pride of ownership. A knife that is gorgeously made and hard to get. And so the fact that they're hard to get just adds a little more joy to owning one. I really like that there's a nail nick on this knife. I've been flipping it open to demonstrate the mechanism, but frankly, I open it with the nail nick most of the time because why not? It's safer. I don't need the one-hand opening, and it's less threatening. I will say that another thing I like, that out of the box, the blade was great. It's very sharp, not mirror sharp. I can't see myself in it, but very sharp. And something I appreciate, very symmetric. Checking the bevel, it is a good 22 degrees on both sides, not asymmetric to the precision that I'm capable of measuring, and that's nice. And finally, it's just a nice knife to cut with for cutting things other than myself. I'm going to come back to cutting myself in a moment. A very practical size, a useful blade size, comfortable to hold, jimping for the thumb. Not really any hot spots. The clip is simple enough that it just fits into the creases in my hand. So a comfortable knife to hold and cut with. Now, there are a couple of things I don't like about the knife, one major and one minor. The major is the reason that I actually remade this video, because the first take of this video, shortly after I got this knife, was quite uncomplimentary, because I was having a hell of a time learning how to operate the front flip mechanism, and I was doing it wrong. I'll tell you what I was doing wrong. I was trying to front flip it with my finger, which I'm not going to demonstrate. You can do, but you have much less of a grip on the knife. And for me, anyway, I lost control of the knife several times, and I cut myself on it quite badly twice. Enough that I was afraid of the knife. I was afraid to open it, and my first review said, "Thank God for the nail nick, because I can't open this knife with my one hand, and I'm afraid of it." So anyway, another knife, another Pena knife actually, taught me how to do that properly, so that I'm now able to and comfortable flicking it open. And it was me. It was bad technique. The one thing I will say is that the front flip has a bit of a learning curve. And you know, that's true of any front flipper. When I first got the Kaiser Feist, it took a while before I was able to flip it open one-handed, comfortably and confidently. So front flippers have a learning curve. This one does. I'm glad there's a nail nick, because if I were to loan this knife to somebody, here, open your package, who wasn't a experienced knife person, I wouldn't even tell them about the front flipper mechanism. I'd just tell them to open it with the nail nick. So thank God that's there. It makes me think that when we get onto my knife rating system in a moment, I should add another rating. I'm not going to, but I should add another rating for the degree of comfort I would have loaning this knife to somebody else. So this one with the nail nick would score highly. Anyway, the other thing that I don't like is a small thing, but problem with any bolster lock is that when the knife is open and locked, there's a gap in there, in between the lock bar and the scale. And I imagine that over time, that's going to fill up with crap, sand, earwigs, leftover food, beard hairs. And so probably, once every 100 years or so, I'll want to take the scales off and clean that out. Not a big deal. Well, I've referred to my knife rating system. Let's go through that. Let's start with my NTGK rating, which is for non-threatening gentleman's knife, and we'll do non-threatening first. So for non-threatening, the good news is you can open it two-handed, which is good, because opening a knife one-handed can be scary. It has a classic, sort of nostalgic look. It looks like Grandpa's pocket knife, right? And that just disarms people. People say, "Oh, my father had a knife like that," and internally I'm thinking, no, he didn't. But it just tends to disarm the reaction to the fact that you've got a knife in your pocket when it looks like something that you remember your father or your grandfather having. And I think the soft and subtle look of the micarta helps to make it look non-threatening as well. So those are all good things. The bad for non-threatening is if you do open it one-handed with the flipper mechanism, well, flipping a knife open is scary. It's fast. People don't understand that that's not a switchblade. So that frightens people. And of course, it's even scarier when you fumble the knife and cut yourself with it or fling it at somebody else. So if I loaned this to somebody, as I said, I would just tell them to open it with the nail nick. So I'd give it a B for non-threatening. As a gentleman's knife, it's largely good. The good news is it's rare. It's a boutique manufacturer, hard to get. So, gentlemen's jewelry, we tend to prefer things that are a little bit hard to get. If you can get it at Walmart, it doesn't seem quite so classy. Right? Beautiful classic design, gorgeous looking premium materials, titanium, micarta, M390 steel. The bad as a gentleman's knife is the shallow carry clip, so it sticks noticeably out of your pocket. And as I said, the scary flip, when you do that, it does sort of make it a little less gentlemanly. So don't do that. So I'd give it an A as a gentleman's knife. So A and B all told, I'm going to give it a B+ as a non-threatening gentleman's knife. It's so gorgeous that it really should be rated higher than that, but it's just that scary flipper mechanism that keeps it down to a B+. Next rating. how about KN rating, my knife nerd friends rating? Well, the pro is my knife nerd friends will love this thing. It's rare. It's hard to get. It's a boutique designer. It's premium materials. It is beautifully made and put together. Looks beautiful. Smooth mechanism. Great lock. Good flip once they learn to do it. They'll like all those things. The con, as a knife nerd rating, is that the flipper is hard to learn how to use. And it's going to knock it down from an A+ to an A as a KN rating. And finally, the CMR rating, the cut myself rating. Well, according to the scale that I originally suggested for this rating, I'm going to give it a C because I've cut myself on it badly twice. Now, I acknowledge that I was doing something wrong, but it is still a knife with which it was possible to do that thing wrong. So I'm going to get a C as a CMR rating. So summing that all up, I really like this knife. When I first got it and made a few mistakes, I was afraid of it. But I've got over that, having learned the proper technique, and I really like this knife, and I carry it often. It is beautiful, elegant, everything I like in a gentleman's knife. Great materials. The only thing I'd say if you're buying one for yourself, especially if it's your first or one of your first front flippers, take the time to learn the proper front flip technique and do it in a safe manner because you're probably going to drop it a few times. So learn to flip it over a table, not over your body when you're not wearing pants. No, that is not what happened to me. I did not drop it on body parts not wearing pants. That was just a joke. And I would say open it two-handed with the nail nick whenever possible, because why not? Why would you not want to operate your knife in the safest manner possible whenever you can? So anyway, with that little proviso, I absolutely love this knife. It is in the kind of elegant gentleman's knife end of the scale. It is one of my favorites. Well, that brings us to the end. Thanks for watching and following along, and we'll see you again.